Now, Mike Vaccaro, a great columnist of the New York Post, focused in on Buck Showalter in his latest column, saying that if he can't get this thing turned around with the Steve Cohen support and the talent, that this is going to hurt his legacy because of the stuff in the past, meaning that, of course, couldn't get the Yankees over the hump, couldn't get the Diamondbacks over the hump. Both those teams did win championships after he left. And then, of course, the Baltimore Orioles, who were good, but not good enough. And now you've got this situation, 101 wins last year, falls apart quickly, and now a very disappointing season. And I don't know if it ruins a legacy for him or makes what the legacy is worse for him if things go bad. But I will say that this is his best and probably last opportunity to change that legacy of his for the good. And that is probably what's the most disappointing for him. When he took this job, it was, can Buck finally win a World Series with this roster, this talent, and this owner? And what a great opportunity for him to do it at this point in his career.
And he would have the support, the financial support, where he may not have had in other places.
Yeah.
That's the point. The point is that you're playing or working for an owner that is got unlimited resources and is spending those resources and using those resources to give you what people believe is a team that has a chance to win a World Series. And right now they haven't played up to it. And these are the types of series where the Mets already this year have not shown up and played well. They've lost to teams with losing records. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. I put the Mets like right with the Padres. I'm talking about two teams that are spending a lot of money and two teams that are not living up to the expectations of the fan base, of the owners, I'm sure. And a lot of people are questioning the wisdom of the general manager as to whether or not he's spending that money right on the right players.
Yes.
So that's the other part of this whole thing. Now, with Mikolas pitching for St. Louis tonight, he's a right-handed pitcher. Are we going to see Daniel Vogelbach, or is he still on his mental break?
I feel like you're going to see him. I feel like with a couple days off this week, the fact that he did meet the media recently, the roster spot has not been claimed by anybody else. They did not DFA him. I think you're probably going to see him. I think now would be the time to see him.
If he does not play tonight or does not get in the game in some way, shape, or form, it will be like 10 days that he has been, in uniform, but not in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you just have to move on. Now, I don't want him to be in the lineup. I don't want him to be on the team any longer. And I don't want this to be a personal thing against him at all. He's just not helping the team, and he's certainly not helping the team. Well, actually, you can make a case that he is helping the team by not playing because he's been so bad. But, I mean, if he's completely useless, meaning that he's not in the lineup, he's not playing the field, he's not coming off the bench, he's not pinch hitting, then you just got to move on. So, to me, it's even sillier to keep him on the team and then not play him now.
Well, the other thing that it does do is that you're playing shorthanded. You're playing shorthanded because Drew Smith is suspended for 10 days. And you can't replace him because he's suspended. And then you got this guy on the bench who's not playing at all. So you basically have two guys that are not a part of your team, and you're shorthanded. So you would think that you would need another arm maybe, or forget the bat, just leave Vientos out there and let him do his thing and let Alvarez be a DH every now and again.
Yeah,
my thing is it's a weird thing what's going on with this guy. And I don't, you've asked the question 1,000 times. There's somebody in that organization that really feels like he can help this team, or he would have been gone already.
Yeah, and it's got to be either Steve Cohen, Buck Showalter, or Billy Epler. It has to be one of those three guys that is really defending it. Now, I do think that with Tomas Nido being DFA'd, that Buck Showalter probably didn't like that, and he probably likes Daniel Vogelbach too. And I could see the conversation going like, all right, you can get rid of Nido if you want, but you're not getting rid of Daniel too, because we need him, and I love him, and he's a great clubhouse guy, and we, all this stuff. He'll get going. Don't worry. Look at his on-base percentage, all of this nonsense that goes on. So I want to know when somebody gets disappointed or angry enough to make some real change on this team. That's what I want to know.
Well, it's going to have to, look, we are middle of June now. They're 10 games out. The overall National League is not great. There's always the opportunity for them to, get in via the wild card. I know that Sal Licata, our colleague, has already given the division to the Atlanta Braves.
That's right. He did to the Mets last year, and it obviously did not work out for the Mets. So hopefully it's a reverse psychology, opposite thing this year with him. Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's the case. But I do know this, that if something doesn't start shaking out the right way, eventually somebody's going to have to go. You cannot just keep churning and treading water. Or losing water in this case.
And also the trade deadline is going to be interesting. We got a long way to go. Obviously, I don't know if it's the July 31st or August 1st or whatever it may be, but there's still a long way to go with that. But where they are and what they do in that situation will be fascinating to me, because are they going to punt this year? Are they going to try to get a couple of reinforcements to see if they can just squeak into the wild card? Maybe everybody of their everyday players that are out there that they're paying so much money will wake up and become a good baseball team at the end of the year? Or do they try to go all in because Shohei Ohtani is available? We're not going to know, and it's hard to talk about because we don't know exactly where they're going to be. Listen, if they're 10, 15 games under 500 at that time, then they're not doing anything to improve the team. We know that much. But, if they're 3-4 games above 500, they're 2.5 games out of a wild card, what do? I mean, because last year they were leading the division at the trade deadline, and they did Ugat. They brought in Darren Ruff and Daniel Vogelbach because they thought that they were good enough. And we've seen the Phillies, the Braves, two teams in this division go and make great moves at the trade deadline the last 2 years and then find themselves in the World Series.
You know what I feel like? I feel like those moves last year were analytic moves. Let's get a lefty and a righty in here, guys who, have, decent numbers, and they'll be the perfect fill-in, for something that, where we really feel like we need it. Like we need a power lefty hitter. And, early on when Daniel Vogelbach was here, he kind of caught the eye of the fans because he kind of looks like the fans. You know what I mean?
But he was good.
And he actually had some moments. Yeah,
he had some hits. He had some extra base hits. He's running around the bases, and he looks like a cartoon character, and everybody loved it. Everybody loved everything last year. I mean, think about it. No matter how dumb or stupid the trumpets might have been, everybody loved that because Edwin Diaz was great. No matter how big Daniel Vogelbach was, everybody loved that because things were Everybody loved everything last year because it was all working until it wasn't. And now this year, we hate everything.
Now, of course, because it's not working now. Speaking of not working, Tyler McGill, 3 out of his last 4 outings, he's just been shelled.
Yeah,
it's here we go. Here's a guy that's kicking off this series who has really struggled now over the last month.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern, or the reason why I don't believe the Mets will turn it around, is because of the starting pitching. I think Max Scherzer is cooked. I think Justin Verlander is not going to return to his Cy Young form. I think Kodai Senga is a guy that you can't trust because he can't pitch every 5th day. Tyler McGill stinks. David Peterson stinks. And Carlos Carrasco is either really, really good or really, really horrible. So to me,
I don't think there's the consistency in the pitching staff that's going to allow you to go on an 8-2 run.
And the offense isn't good enough to cover up the warts of that.
But it was amazing, though, when they played the Rays and the Phillies back-to-back, those were really good series and really good games.
Yeah.
They played well. They pitched well. And it kind of gave you a sense, okay, maybe they're getting their act together. But unfortunately, after those 2 series, they did not get their act together.
Right.
And that's the problem. And you had Scherzer had a bad outing. Verlander had a bad outing. You also, I'm trying to think, McGill had a bad outing. And that's really what it comes down to, is your starting pitching going to give you a chance to win every single week, day. And I'm with you. I don't believe so that the Mets starting 5 will give you that opportunity. Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.